Flat terrain but holding on to record highs. Axis Bank's Q1 earnings missed estimates because of elevated slippages, if you remember. The net interest margins came in at a 4-quarter low and asset quality has also deteriorated. We have Amitabh Chaudhary, the MD and CEO of Axis Bank, joining us. Mr. Chaudhary, good morning. And we have Lata Venkatesh right here with us in the studio to take us through that interview. Lata, hi, morning to you as well.
Good morning.
Thanks, and good morning to you, Amitabh. I didn't want to miss up this opportunity since we missed you last time. Okay, well, I'm not starting with your results. Let me first start with this current account issue. Is that over and done with, or will there be niggling follow-through problems?
Well, I think RBI has, came out with the circular quite some time back, and banks were given sufficient time to ensure that they can look at their database of all the current accounts and take appropriate action. What does tend to happen, because it was a large exercise, that a lot of the customers, some of the activity tends to get bunched out towards the end. And as a result, a lot of customers are obviously facing some inconvenience. I think if they had acted in advance and done some of the things which I'm sure the banks are asking them to do, they would not have gone through this particular problem, which seems to be coming in the papers for some time. We have gone through a customer identification exercise. Customers have been communicated with. The RMs and the branches have connected with them. There are some specific exemptions under the circular, which, if you fall under that exemption, you can easily maintain accounts over and above what, the circular kind of allows you. There has been, some issues around operational framework, because in case of, for example, sole proprietor individuals, the exposure must be clubbed at the PAN level. So there are sometimes the ODs in personal name, but the business is being conducted in the name of the firm. They sometimes need to go and change the account numbers, which are registered with various authorities. So I think if they had done it on time, there would not have been a problem. But a lot of accounts have been closed. I think it will bring discipline into the system. Yeah. Hopefully, this problem should get sorted out in a short order. As far as banks are concerned, they were required to close everything before July end. And I think most of it has already happened. Okay. Because RBI has been quite clear that if you don't do it on time, they will come down on you with a ton of bricks. And they have been saying that for some time. So it's not that banks did not have enough notice.
Yes, we did report that they wrote letters to the managing directors and even the chairman of the audit committee for all the banks. So yes, the supervisory department was, with the banks. But just a final word on that. At the start of the imposition of these controls that everyone cannot open current account unless you have lent to the borrower, the expectation was that public sector banks will get more deposits, current account, and foreign and private may lose. But what was your experience? Did you all gain or lose deposits?
I think we still have to look at it, because some of the accounts are frozen as the borrowers or the companies did not act. What you were forced to do was to kind of freeze the accounts and work with them to kind of return the money to them. I think overall the private banks, at least the large ones, will, I don't think, gain or lose much. The foreign banks could be a bit of a loser, because they do not have the kind of requisite limits to be managing cash for some of the large entities. Now, whether the public sector banks will gain, yes, in some cases they could. But end of the day, it is very important that as cash is king, people need to manage cash. They want to reduce their overall borrowings. The institutions or companies will continue to look for solutions which allow them to manage cash in a more seamless and a more efficient manner. And obviously, the banks will continue to look for opportunities to gain business of this nature. So it is not done as yet. I think the net number as of now is almost no impact, but over a period of time, the equations could change depending on how banks are able to capitalize on this opportunity either way.
Okay. Now let me come to the numbers. As we said at the announcement itself, as Sonia said, the slippages were an irking point, and 45% of your net slippages came from retail. Now we are 1 month and almost a week into the new quarter. Have people started paying back? I mean, I would assume that some people must have lost jobs or could not do their businesses in the first quarter. Has July been a more pleasant experience?
Yes, so the demand resolution for the retail portfolio was, in our case, 98% for first quarter, reached close to 99.5% of March 2021 levels in June. And July is back to pre-COVID levels across all asset classes. So we obviously are seeing much better collections than what we had seen in the first 3 months of the quarter, including in June, which was a way, a better month than what we saw in month of May. So in that sense, I think you will start seeing recoveries happen in this quarter. This is obviously assuming that a third wave or some kind of stoppage or slowdown does not kick in. So in that sense, and again, different banks have followed different paths in this credit cycle. We have been very judicious about restructuring. The restructuring has been largely secured, limited as a percentage of our book. So we have been focused more on recognizing the problems up front and focusing on collections. So you have seen a larger slippage. 45% of our retail slippage was unsecured, but in our unsecured, anything which does not have security of more than 50% we call unsecured. It's not that our unsecured is fully unsecured. So we are being conservative. We believe it is important to be conservative during these times. Keep your balance sheet extremely strong, beef it up as much as possible. And as things recover, because a lot of the slippages are secured, the money and the recovery should come back quite quickly. So in the overall sense, the impact of this COVID wave, assuming COVID-3, even if it happens, the impact on the economy is low. We should be back on the recovery path very soon.
Okay. No, you have been conservative. Even your standard asset provisioning, you left it untouched. So you have that money as a reserve. So any guidance on credit cost? Will it be lower definitely than the quarters gone by?
Yes, in the months and the quarters to come, the credit cost should be lower. We had, in the beginning of the year, said that the credit cost in this year will be lower than that of last year. I know, again, no one can predict, with this pandemic what will happen. But, based on whatever we know today, we do believe that our credit cost should be lower. The wholesale side of the business is doing very well in terms of slippages. We expect the retail, side to recover quickly. This time, the impact is more on the secured side, and a lot of it is coming from mortgages. Now, properties, the borrowers have real affinity to property. Our LTV values are somewhere between 50 to 60%. There are some temporary, cash flow mismatches. So we do believe that as the tools for collections recovery become available, the numbers should start looking up. So yes, in a nutshell, overall credit cost should be lower.
Okay.
We're not given a target.
Got it. Amitabh, I wanted to ask you about loan growth itself. We are given to understand that home registrations have gone through the roof in Maharashtra. Would you want to rethink what kind of loan growth you will be able to show this year?
Well, credit offtake from the system remains moderate. If you look at non-food credit as of 16 July, it has risen only 6.5% year on year, and that too because of base effects. So in that sense, there is no signal as yet which seems to be indicating that CapEx is back in a big way. People are going to start borrowing in a big way. And in that sense, we are frankly predicting, our economists are predicting credit growth of only 6%, likely to rise to 7 to 8% in financial 23. Now, part of this moderate credit growth is also due to extraordinary stimulus-led liquidity, resulting in low market borrowing rates. So the high-rated corporates have gone and accessed the corporate bond markets and used that to repay the existing bank loans. So in that sense, I expect the overall system credit growth to remain muted. But as far as Axis Bank is concerned, we believe we have considerable credit opportunities ahead of us. Okay. Despite modest system growth, our advances growth in the first quarter was 12%. Okay. Our SME growth is 18%. Our retail was 14%, and we do believe that the numbers, hopefully in the quarters to come, will continue to reflect credit growth, which is way higher than hopefully the credit growth in the system.
Okay. Now, a minor point, this was, I think, a Credit Suisse note. They said your margins are lower. One, of course, because of slippages, you had to write back some of the interest income, but also because of higher international loans. That was, I've never seen that as a reason. Was there some one-off, and will that persist?
So yes, our margins, NIMs were up 6 basis points year on year, but they were down in comparison to the last quarter of the last financial year. It has been driven by 4 things. One is that there is a bit of a product mix change. There have been interest reversals, higher slippage, CRR increase also kicked in, and market pricing pressure. You're referring to this note from Credit Suisse analysts. We have built a pretty large trade finance book over a period of time because we believe that's the kind of business we should be in. A part of this trade finance book is denominated in dollars because we are financing imports. So in that sense, yes, because it is dollar-denominated book, it is NII accretive, but it is NIM decretive. So in that sense, obviously, it has had an impact on NIMs. We do believe that, and obviously this is in line with our strategy to grow the transaction banking business. As growth returns to domestic corporate book, this should, we believe will correct by itself. From our perspective in the medium term, we are focused on fairly priced businesses like our mid-corporate side or the SME side, and the retail business. We also believe that with our initiatives around building a granularity in our deposit book, better CASA, better quality of CASA, all the transformation initiatives we are running, and the focus to reduce the drag on our RIDF bond book, which is related to our not meeting the PSL targets earlier, will definitely add to our NIM story over quarters and years to come.
Okay. Amitabh, your name gets mentioned, as in Axis Bank's name gets mentioned in several inorganic moves as well. Is that something that you would keep? The last I heard was a MFI. So, as a strategy, are you all still open to acquisitions?
No, I'm smiling because you said our name gets mentioned in the right places, so I'm very happy about that. But, we have always maintained that as a growth-oriented organization, we are always on the lookout for synergies which will yield value to our stakeholders. But in the same breath, I would say that we will do any transaction of this kind only if it fits within our overall risk framework, and we will be very, very calibrated about it. I mean, if at all, if there is anything concrete, we'll be happy to share. Now, a lot of these rumors keep coming up. And by the way, there are a lot of transactions out there in the marketplace. Some of them public, some of them not that public. So during these times when I guess people, the assets are valued fairly, or some of them are valued richly, a lot of the promoters are willing to sell their assets. So, we are seen as one of the potential buyers of those assets. The onus is on us to definitely look at them. But we will be extremely careful before we do anything.
Okay. Nothing at the moment on your radar?
If there was anything, I would have showed you.
Okay. No, I mean, you will tell the exchange only after it is done. So, are you just actively looking at any proposal was my doubt. You want to?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. All right. I wanted to ask you a slightly more visionary question. Logically, given the extent of digital banking people are doing, banks should reduce the size of their branches or even the number of their branches. As well, you should be able to data mine and get more work with less people and less space. Is there a secular trend in OPEX being lower?
Well, I think people assume that just because you put a branch, that will mean that your expenses will continue to push higher. Let's be honest that firstly, the size and the format of the branches that are required now, and especially because a large part of these branches are going into the SEBI and the rural markets, is quite small. So the spend is not that high. But yes, you have to recognize that once you establish a branch, it is not easy to close it down, not because there are rules preventing it, but it just does not look good that you entered a market and then vacating the market. From our perspective, because of our focus on broadly defined Bharat, which is the rural and the semi-urban side, there are spaces, there are markets where we do need to establish a physical presence, however small that might be. So we will continue to open branches. The number is not going to be some astronomical number. We're talking about, if things remain as they are and things remain open, about 300 branches in the year. We opened very less branches last year. So we will add those branches. But yes, you're absolutely right. We will encourage those customers who are customers of those branches to use digital platforms to transact with us. But they do need that physical presence. And I've always been saying consistently that branches were earlier seen as servicing centers. Over a period of time, they will become sales centers. They're just the fact that they are a branch and you can do branch services. Frankly, it's an office for salespeople to sit and ensure that you're connecting with the customers either digitally or a mix of offline or online, or offline. For some customers, they do want to see someone across the table and you want to discuss whatever services you want to buy across the table. So you're providing them all those alternatives at the same time. So I don't think branch expansion will go away. It might reduce, but the size and the format might change. But yes, a lot of the things will get done digitally, and the focus of a branch is from becoming mainly a service center, doing 70% of the transactions which are service related, to doing 70-80% of the transactions which are sales related. That will change.
Okay. All right. We will leave it at that. Amitabh Chaudhry, it's a pleasure having you with us. Hope you have a fabulous FY22.
Thank you so much, Lata. Always a pleasure to talk to all of you. Thank you.
Okay, back to you guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Lata, for that. Well, the market, by the way, just want to point out that the Bank Nifty has moved a tad bit into the red. So the Sensex and the Nifty are holding up fine, but still a little bit of pressure on the Bank Nifty, as expected, I guess.
Yeah, Bank Nifty has been a bit of a problem today. The pressure is from ICICI Bank mainly. That's been the leader, but today there's some profit taking. But the broader market still continues to do well. Sonia, a lot of stocks. Just look at a couple of these names. United Breweries should come up for you 4% higher on that stock. Astral is a stock which is, of course, the latest entrant. That's doing well. And Mphasis, we referred to that in the morning as well. That one is up 3%. So a lot of names doing well. And Titan ahead of numbers. What can you say about that stock?
Okay.